Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be going over a prolonged stretch of severe weather. Once again, we're not going to be doing any mesoscale discussion review this time. We are just going to be looking over the days 1 through 3 and 4 through 8 severe weather outlooks. Yeah, because there's going to be definitely severe weather today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Um, and maybe into Wednesday and Thursday, but there's considerable uncertainty beyond Tuesday, so we can't say anything for sure. Um, today, right now we have a Kansas. Sorry. Well, yeah, we have a Kansas, but we have a slight risk of severe weather from the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles into Kansas. That's what I meant to say, but I didn't say it. And then we have a marginal risk extending from, uh, just north of St. Louis, uh, maybe the northern St. Louis proper, St. Louis area, into northern Missouri, into southwest Iowa, into southern and southeastern Nebraska, into most of Kansas, into southeast Colorado, into eastern New Mexico, into Texas, almost touching the Mexico border, into Oklahoma, and yeah. So that's the story for today. And then we have a general thunderstorm risk that's unrelated to everything else in the Northeast and New England. So, and a thunderstorm risk extending from the Canadian border to the Mexican border. So, how fun is that? Alrighty, so let's actually dive into the hazards. Now, for today, there's not a tornado threat that's going to be present. I should say that what I should say is that there could technically be a tornado threat. It just will be super duper small and will not be really anything of significance or importance today. There may be a tornado warning or two, but uh, the rotation will probably be very weak and very short-lived. So the Storm Prediction Center reassures everyone that there's nothing to worry about in terms of any tornadic potential. So we have no tornado risk today. Uh, we have a 15% hatched risk of wind from Kansas to Texas and New Mexico. Basically, there's going to be some damaging wind potential today. Um, really anywhere inside of these colored regions or near these colored regions or dashed regions, there's going to be a chance for potential wind damage. Uh, but if you live in the Texas or Oklahoman panhandles or Southwest Texas, it's probably going to be the most concentrated. Uh, so yeah, for now that's that. For hail, we have a hatched risk of hail extending from the Kansas City area all the way to Kansas to central Kansas. We have a 15% that doesn't even leave Kansas. It's just in Kansas, and then there's a 5% extending from like northern St. Louis into the Plains area. Nothing much. Nothing of significant proportions, but that's really that. So there's a 20Z update, so I will be reading the 20Z update the along with the 1630Z discussion. However, I'm probably going to read the 1630Z discussion first, and then read the 20Z discussion, just so you could take in information chronologically. Yeah, anyways, so here we go. Central Plains, including Kansas. Now, this is the 1630Z, so again, like I said, we're doing it chronologically, so. An upper trough over the Canadian prairies and northern plains will glancingly influence the region later today, along with an embedded disturbance or two emerging from the central Rockies early today. Surface cyclogenesis will occur across Kansas, while a front spreads east-southeastward across the central high plains, and low-level moisture steadily increases ahead of a dry line. Initial sustenance of deep convection is most likely to initially occur late this afternoon through around sunset across west central into southwest Kansas, in vicinity of the surface triple point, and to a lesser extent along the southwestward extending dry line. Beneath a stout elevated mixed layer, moderate buoyancy with 2,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer convective available potential energy is expected across central Kansas, which will be coincident with a belt of 35 to 40 knot mid-level winds and effective shear. Where storms do develop, forecast parameters will be quite favorable for supercells capable of large hail and damaging winds across much of central towards eastern Kansas. Other high-based severe thunderstorms are possible south-southwestward along the dry line. Southern high plains, including the Oklahoman and Texan panhandles and West Texas. Widely scattered high-based thunderstorms should develop in the vicinity of the dry line late this afternoon and early evening. Somewhat higher probabilities and storm coverage should exist across the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles and Texas South Plains. Various forecast soundings regionally near the dry line reflect a hot and very deeply mixed peak heating boundary layer to upwards of 4 to 4.5 kilometers of AGL above ground layer per 500 millibars, with residual cape and moderately strong westerlies atop the boundary, where storms develop in this hot, steep, lapse rate environment, with a diminishing storm intensity through the post-sunset evening hours as the boundary layer cools. There was a mesoscale discussion issued for the Texas Oklahoma panhandles basically, and there were 9.5 degree Celsius per kilometer 0 to 3 lapse rates of around 9.5 degrees Celsius. So that's wild. So now let's read the 20Z. So thunderstorms with hail and severe winds are possible from Kansas and Missouri southwest into West Texas, mainly late this afternoon and evening. 20Z update in Central Plains and Mid-Mississippi Valley. Uh, Isolated convection may develop across portions of central Kansas late this afternoon and evening northeast of the effective triple point. Low-level moisture continues to rapidly advect northward across central Kansas, but deep mixing will likely limit the extent of the more robust 60s dew points, with moderate forecast ML Cape around 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram, and amid veering wind profiles, isolated high-based supercells remain possible, mainly with a larger hail and damaging wind risk. Additional storms are also possible later tonight at the terminus of a forecast 40 to 50 knot low-level jet across far eastern Kansas into Missouri. It remains unclear if these thunderstorms will be robustly organized, but some risk for hail and damaging winds may exist. Wind and hail probabilities were expanded slightly eastward to capture this threat. Southern and central high plains. High-based showers and a few thunderstorms have begun developing and should gradually increase in coverage this afternoon. Weak buoyancy, around 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram of most unstable cape, atop a very deep mixed layer, is evident on 12Z and 18Z area RAOBs, supporting the risk for damaging and severe gusts. A few stronger high-based thunderstorms could also produce marginally severe hail across parts of western Kansas, where buoyancy is somewhat better. See mesoscale discussion number 718 for additional short-term information. RAOBs are radio sound observations. It's basically referring to atmospheric data collected by weather balloons. I looked it up because I didn't know what RAOBs were, but now I do. Radio sound observations. Will I forget that? Probably, but I'll remind myself in the future. Anyway, so here's tomorrow's outlook. So tomorrow is kind of just like yesterday, where the same hazards will be presented. There's no tornado threat. At least I shouldn't say there's no tornado threat. It's just that there is a tornado threat, but it's super, super small, super tiny, and so it really cannot be delineated by the storm prediction system. There's also a 15% risk of wind extending from, the Omaha metro to southeast Nebraska to northeast Kansas to northwest Missouri to southwest Iowa and southern Iowa, and that's the 15%. And the 5% really extends from the Great Lakes region all the way down to the kind of the deep south, almost. Uh, the southeastern United States, and I shouldn't say the deep south, but the southeastern United States, into the Midwest, into the plains, into the deep south, Texas. So it is the deep south, yes. So from Texas, and then all the way up to Wisconsin, and then down to Tennessee. So it's going to be all over the place for the wind, and then for the hail. The hail and the wind are kind of like the same. In the fact that the eastern sector is kind of the same. Nothing's really changed. But there the on the western portion near Texas, it's kind of shrunken a little bit, like shrunk back. So now it's not really intruding into Texas anymore, and so now it's actually on the Oklahoma-Texas border, all the way going up still to the Great Lakes, to the Midwest, to the southeast, and to the plains. But for hail, we have a hatched risk of hail extending from Oklahoma near Oklahoma City all the way up to the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa border, basically. Yeah. So cool. Cool, cool, cool. I feel so special. But anyway, so the slight risk, the worst threat of severe weather is from Omaha to like Des Moines or something like that, and then Kansas City. So Omaha, Des Moines, Kansas City, watch out tomorrow. Uh, so yep. So cool, cool, cool. Anyway, yeah. So now we're gonna read the description. So here we go. Synopsis: A predominantly zonal flow regime aloft will persist over the central United States through Friday. An embedded weak upper-level disturbance, currently over the southwest, will migrate eastward across the Central Plains through tomorrow, reaching the mid-Mississippi River Valley by late evening. This flow regime will promote modest deepening of a surface low over western Oklahoma and Kansas through the day, with continued northward advection of a seasonally moist air mass to the east of a dry line and ahead of an inverted surface trough across the plains in the upper Midwest. Thunderstorm development is anticipated along these boundaries by late afternoon, likely lasting into the overnight hours for portions of the lower Missouri River Valley and the Midwest. Lower Missouri River Valley. Here we go. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Let's go. Uh, Thunderstorm initiation is anticipated by late afternoon across central Nebraska along the inverted surface trough, where warm conditions on the fringe of the returning moisture should yield weakly capped thermodynamic profiles. Stronger mid-level flow across the central plains will favor higher probabilities for organized convection, including the potential for supercells. However, weak low-level storm relative winds with a deeply mixed air mass may promote outflow-dominant convection and the potential for relatively quick upscale growth. While discrete modes can be maintained, steep mid-level lapse rates and strong zonal speed shear will promote the potential for large to very large hail. Regardless, over the past 12 to 24 hours, both deterministic and ensemble guidance have trended towards a more north-northwesterly placement of the inverted trough, as well as the zone of convective initiation and downstream storm propagation. Based on these trends, 15% hail and wind probabilities have been shifted northward. Additionally, 5% hail and wind probabilities were expanded eastward into the portions of the Midwest, where strong deep layer wind shear and elevated buoyancy may maintain convective intensity through the overnight hours. Southern Plains. Persistent west-southwesterly flow, or I should say west-southwesterly mid-level flow, will favor steep lapse rate advection, i.e. 8 to 9 degrees Celsius per kilometer, eastward over the southern plains through the next 48 hours. Despite the dry conditions to the west of the dry line, strong diurnal heating coupled with the steep lapse rates should yield deeply mixed and nearly uninhibited profiles by late afternoon. Although the buoyancy values will be modest, high-based convection over a very deeply mixed boundary layer may support strong to severe downbursts. Recent HREF, or High Resolution Ensemble forecasts, and REFS, Rapid Ensemble Forecast System solutions hint that severe winds associated with the high base convection may develop as far west as the Oklahoma That is a weird sentence to say. May develop as far west as the Oklahoma-Texas panhandle, so considerable spread is noted among deterministic solutions. However, a westward expansion of the 5% wind and marginal contour was made to account for this potential. To the east of the dry line, strong capping at the base of the elevated mixed layer will likely limit storm coverage. However, a few recent convective allowing model solutions hint that ascent along the dry line may be sufficient for isolated convection by late afternoon and early evening. 30-knot mid-level flow over the warm sector will support organization of any deep convection that can become sustained, including the potential for a supercell or two that will be capable of large hail. Now, I just have to interrupt. Speaking of the HREF and REFS, High Resolution Ensemble Forecast and Rapid Ensemble Forecast System, the HREF, SREF, NAM, and then like another version of the NAM and the High Res W, those are all computer models, are going to be terminated effective August 31st, 2026 by the National Centers for Environmental Protection. Why well, they give two very main and prominent reasons. Number one, most pressing is funding, obviously with the geopolitical and political socioeconomic status right now, with gas prices soaring through the roof, like 450 on average for the United States, which is just absurd, by the way. With all of this political ambiguity going on and everything like that, all of these people arguing back and forth. Um, Funding has significantly been cut by the to the National Weather Service and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and so uh, they will be the National Centers for Environmental Protection will be retiring these models again, like I said, effective August 31st, 2026, which is in 3 months, 15 days, 17 days actually. So I'm not very fond of this change. The NAM, the North American Mesoscale, the High Resolution Ensemble Forecast, uh, and Short Range Ensemble Forecast, the High Resolution Window, and the another version of the NAM. Uh, they're all gonna go, and so I'm gonna miss them because they are very, very prominent in forecasting. And all these models are going to be taken over by the Rufus, or Rapid Refresh Forecast System, or and what I like to call the Reefs, REFS, Rapid Ensemble Forecast System. The second reason is modernization. I can see how modernization can affect the meteorological field, but I also don't get why you have to just completely eliminate those from the computer models. They are good models, and whatever you want to say, whatever your experiences are, that's completely fine and up to you. You can always voice your own opinions, and I have no problem with that. But it's so dumb what they're doing, I think. Yes, I mean, I can definitely agree that the North American mesoscale model, it can get absurd, but the rapid refresh and rapid ensemble forecast systems are literally way more absurd. They produce like the worst kind of convectogenetic parameters known to man. Uh, they're severely convectively biased, and so I really don't think that the Rufus and Reefs or Rapid Refresh and Rapid Ensemble forecast systems should take over all of the models that we've been using for decades and decades and decades. I don't see the need, the reason to do that. Yes, funding's a big thing that's trending, and it's poking and prodding at all the meteorological fields. But I mean, like, we are advancing every day, but as the Pennsylvania Dutch people say, uh, the 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 aheader you get, it's like the more you get, the more you advance, the behinder you get, or something like that. It's basically saying like the more in technology we go, the aheader you go, the behinder you get. That's the phrase. It's basically saying the more we go into the future and the more that you are exposed to more technological innovations, the actual more behind that we're getting because, you know, sometimes living a very simplistic life with really no technology whatsoever can actually be better than this is just an opinionated answer. Uh, Sometimes living a simplistic life can actually be better because you won't have to really deal with all these technological glitches that these devices can pose. Uh, but yeah, sorry for my little rant, my little ramble. I know that was a little bit off topic, but it did have to do with weather. So, plus, it's very important for me to tell you because sometimes maybe the only information that you get is from me. And maybe that's true in some cases, and I really don't know. But I want that to be true, and so I want to tell you everything about the weather so that you understand where we're going and how we're heading. And yeah. But anyway, so uh, let's actually just go back. This is for Friday's severe risk outlook. So anywhere from Omaha to Des Moines to Kansas City, be ready for tomorrow. This is Saturdays. Fridays, Saturdays. You can see that there's a noticeably bigger shift. There's a larger shift in the outlooks. Uh, the the yellow region or the slight risk goes from Kansas to Colorado to Nebraska to South Dakota to the Iowa-Minnesota border to Iowa, and then the green area goes from uh, the Texas Oklahoma kind of panhandles, quasi panhandle ish, into most of Kansas, into Colorado, into Wyoming, into Nebraska, into South Dakota, into Minnesota, into all of the rest of Iowa, into Wisconsin, into Missouri, into Illinois, into uh, Indiana, into Michigan, into Ohio, and into Kentucky. So that's a lot of states that are going to be potentially under a prominent risk of severe weather on Saturday. It's May 16th, is Saturday. So if you've got any plans stretching from northeastern Colorado to central Iowa, uh, then you may want to reconsider. But it also depends on the time of day, where, when, how, who, a ton of factors. I'm not responsible for any of your daily plans, so if you feel like you're ready mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, socioeconomically, you always can. You always can be ready. You don't need to take my advice. Sometimes I'm just giving suggestions, but you always want to double check, triple check, and even quadruple check uh, who's going to be at your parties, when the party's going to be, where it's going to be, because weather is definitely a factor in everyone of our daily lives. Weather controls us. It does. Because, the evidence kind of proves it. If it's cold out, you usually wear a jacket. If it's warm out, you usually don't wear a lot of clothes. If it's very windy, you wear a windbreaker. If it's rainy, you wear a jacket. If it's, snowing, you usually wear like a heavy coats and stuff like that. So the weather definitely controls how we do things and what we do, when we do them, and all that stuff. So it's very important. Uh, and then, the green and the yellow become the yellow again, and the brown, the green becomes the brown, or the brown becomes the green. It doesn't make a difference. Uh, but then there will be a hatch risk extending from the uh, kind of like Oklahoma, the extreme portion of the northeastern Texas Panhandle into a northern and kind of western part of Oklahoma, excluding really the Panhandle, into Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, uh, South Dakota, and Iowa. Severe weather will be most prominent in that stippled region, that dashed area. So, yeah, from Omaha to Lincoln to Des Moines to Sioux City to Waterloo. Uh, so, yeah, like I said, anywhere. If you live in northeast Colorado to central Iowa and down into central Kansas, or if you just know that you live in the yellow region, then you may want to reconsider doing some things. But also I don't want to. This is very pressing, but the whole entire state of Washington State, is under a general thunderstorm risk on Saturday. So cool. Okay, cool. We got some stuff to read. I'm very happy about that. Summary. So this is where it gets a little bit scarier because they do mention strong tornadoes here. There were no mentions of tornadoes today or tomorrow, but on Saturday, the tornado threat is expected to significantly increase to potentially be strong. So, here we go. Summary. Severe thunderstorms capable of large to very large hail, wind damage, and tornadoes will be possible Saturday afternoon and evening across parts of the Central Plains and lower to mid-Missouri Valley. Hailstones up to 3 inches in diameter and a strong tornado will be possible. There you go. There's that strong tornado threat that I was just aforementioning. There you go. Synopsis: upper-level troughing will gradually become established over the western contiguous United States over the next 72 hours. As this occurs, southwesterly mid-level flow will become more prominent across the central Rockies and Plains, resulting in steady deepening of a lee trough through Saturday. Persistent southerly flow through the persistent southerly flow through the southern and central plains should establish a broad warm sector across the plains, bounded to the west by a dry line and to the north by a diffuse warm frontal zone. Medium and long-range guidance depicts an embedded low-amplitude upper disturbance propagating into the plains late Saturday afternoon, which will augment ascent and promote thunderstorm development in proximity to a deepening lee cyclone across parts of eastern Colorado, northwest Kansas, and western Nebraska. Additional strong to severe thunderstorm chances are expected along the dry line across southwest Kansas into western Oklahoma and northwest Texas, as well as along a warm frontal zone across portions of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley regions. Okay, here we go. Central Plains. A deepening surface low will likely become apparent across the central high plains ahead of the upper-level disturbance. Convective initiation is anticipated by late afternoon in proximity to the surface low and along the warm front, where ML Cape values will likely exceed 2,000 joules per kilogram. So, not really the biggest, but also potent enough. Elongated photographs depicted by most forecast guidance supports and suggests organized supercells will be possible and could pose a threat for very large hail and tornadoes. With time, upscale growth and an increasing severe wind threat is anticipated as thunderstorms propagate along the frontal zone. Recent guidance has shown fairly good agreement in a northward shift of the most volatile convective environment from central Kansas northwestward into northwest Kansas and central Nebraska. Similarly, long-range convective allowing model guidance also depict the best convective signal across this region. Severe probabilities were adjusted northward to reflect this trend. Okay. Western Oklahoma into northwest Texas. Capping at the base of an elevated mixed layer will likely support or suppress convective development along most of the dry line across western Oklahoma and northwest Texas. However, strong diurnal heating coupled with southerly flow through the lowest 2 to 3 kilometers should promote eroding inhibition and considerable parcel residence over time with the dry line circulation. While medium-range ensemble quantitative precipitation forecast signals are very limited, long-range convective allowing model guidance depicts that at least some signal for deep convection. Thunderstorms that can become sustained along the dry line will likely pose a threat for large hail and severe winds, given around 30 knots of effective bulk shear. Midwest to the Ohio Valley. A plume of steep mid-level lapse rates is expected to spread east towards the Midwest through the day. The inhibiting influence of low-level warming near the base of the elevated mixed layer will be offset to some degree by persistent low-level theta E advection. Consequently, isolated to widely scattered convection appears probable across central Illinois into portions of the Ohio Valley. MU Cape values on the order of 1 to 2,000 joules per kilogram should support deep convection, and effective bulk shear values near 30 knots within the warm frontal zone may allow for organized convection with an attendant threat for severe hail and wind. Now, on my phone right now, I'm looking at something right now. It's called the Raw Wind Sonde, I think, and it essentially it predicts like what the convective outlook is going to be on a certain day. And I use it essentially just to see what certain predictions are going to be like. I think it's very cool. Uh, so uh, for really tomorrow, this thing thinks it's going to be a marginal risk equivalent, and then uh, actually, yeah, well, I don't even know anymore. Valid. Okay, yeah, this thing suggests that there's going to be some a threat of severe weather tomorrow, and then you know Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Monday is like huge. Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then it just keeps going. So, uh, yeah. So, speaking of Saturday into, I should say Sunday into Tuesday is actually going to be pretty crazy. It really will be. So you thought this was crazy? You thought this was big? Look at this. What is this? It literally looks like the Storm Prediction Center just blindly just started to draw lines, and then there you go. This isn't really funny because this is actually very serious. So really, where do I start? I really don't know where to start, to be quite honest, because it's so bewilderingly big that I'm just going to start from the 15% and work into the 30%. 15% risk extends from the Great Lakes region, so Minnesota, North Dakota. North Dakota is not really a part of the Great Lakes, but you know what I mean. North Dakota into Minnesota, into Wisconsin, into parts of Illinois, most of Iowa, basically, into South Dakota, Nebraska, uh, northeastern Colorado, Kansas, northwest Missouri, and the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandles, including western Oklahoma. Yeah, and then the 30% risk extends from southwest Minnesota to southeast South Dakota into most of central and eastern Nebraska, including the Omaha metro, and northwest Iowa. So, yeah, uh, um, yeah, but that pales in comparison to the potential severe threats on Monday. Because you thought this was big. Just take a look at this. Take a look at this. From the Great Lakes to the Deep South. You thought this was big? Look at this. This is literally, this is like probably the biggest risk I have ever seen. 428,167 square miles of land that this freaking thing is taking up. Oh my gosh. It literally, it's like just 50 miles or so. I don't even know. West of Detroit, my friend is included in this up in Grand Traverse County and Kalkaska County in Michigan. Uh, West of Detroit, all the way up uh, into the LP and UP of Michigan, into literally the whole state of Wisconsin, into Minnesota, into South Dakota, into Nebraska, into Kansas, into Oklahoma and Texas, into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and literally the whole state of Iowa. Oh my God, I don't even know what to say anymore because this is literally touching the Great Lakes. Literally, I, I swear, I think the whole entire Lake Michigan. I literally think the whole lake of Lake Michigan is entombed inside of this risk. What the hell? And then there's a 30% extending from Iowa into Nebraska, into Missouri, into Kansas, including all of the Omaha metro area. So Omaha, you're like kind of direct center in this, or almost, you know what I mean. So yeah, this is not good. And it continues with day 6 on Tuesday. Now, albeit it's not like necessarily like the biggest severe weather threat that we've seen, or the largest contoured area, a demarcated area, but it's still big, extending from the Illinois-Indiana border all the way through Iowa, Missouri, northwest Arkansas, Oklahoma, and what's that state's name? Kansas. Yes, yes. So from Kansas City to Oklahoma City to Jefferson City to St. Louis to kind of the Quad Cities to Peoria and Springfield, Illinois, and Springfield, Missouri. And it's just shy of Chicago by about a couple of some miles. I don't know, a couple 2, 3 miles. I don't know. Uh, Sorry for that Midwestern impersonation. That probably was bad. I don't know. But yeah, and then day 7 and day 8 have nothing. So again, reminder: this is day 4. This is on Sunday. This is day 5. This is on Monday, and this is day 6. This is on Tuesday. So uh, really, really like Central Kansas is going to be like bombarded by severe weather for like days and days and days and days and days. I'm sorry, Central Kansas, but it's going to be like very grim and bleak and stormy and just torrential and all that for the next like days and days and days until, and you're finally going to get your freedom next week from all this severe weather. Hopefully, because I really don't know what else to say anymore. But like, yeah, like just yeah, like I just yeah. Like I genuinely don't know what to say, and we should probably cue the description. So, oh Lord, I didn't even read this. So super weather outbreak possible on day 4 Sunday and day 5 Monday. Yeah, I did not even read that. When the Storm Protection Center puts things out like that, one-worded, not one-worded, but one-sentence little things before the description, that's not very good. That doesn't symbolize greatness. It symbolizes absolute terror and probably death. But hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully nobody does die. But realistically, somebody may. But as what comes with severe weather and tornado outbreaks like these. Well, this is not a tornado outbreak, at least not what's prognosticated, but could become one. I'm not trying to doomcast here, so let's go. So, again, as aforementioned, severe weather outbreak possible on Sunday and into Monday. Discussion. Sunday, day 4, Monday, day 5. An upper level trough is forecast to move eastward across the Intermountain West on Sunday as a subtle shortwave trough moves northeastward across the Great Plains. Ahead of the trough, a moist and unstable air mass is forecast across much of the Great Plains eastward into the Mississippi Valley. Scattered elevated strong thunderstorms will be possible early in the day uh, from the northern plains eastward into the upper Mississippi Valley. Southward into the central plains and mid-Missouri Valley, strong surface heating is forecast. Some models suggest mixed-layer convective available potential energy could peak in the 3 to 4,000 joules per kilogram range, which that's a lot. In addition, a broad 40 to 50 knot low-level jet is forecast to strengthen late Sunday afternoon. And this, combined with moderate to strong deep layer shear over much of the moist sector, will be favorable for severe storms, potentially over a large area. A severe weather outbreak will be possible from the afternoon and evening into the early overnight period, and this setup appears favorable for supercells with tornadoes, large to very large hail, and wind damage. Uh, so that's not good. Uh, there's going to be an all hazards threat of severe weather for Sunday and for Monday. So I didn't want that to happen, but it's going to. You know, you got to prepare for the best, but expect the worst. Sometimes. So yeah, I'm very solemnly saying this because I really don't know what else to say. This is just horrible. But anyway, so on Monday, the model forecasts eject a negatively tilted upper-level trough into the Central Plains. Ahead of the trough, a moist and unstable air mass is forecast to be located from the southern and central plains northeastward into the upper Midwest. A mid-level jet is forecast to also eject northeastward across the Central Plains as a broad low-level jet strengthens during the late afternoon. Thunderstorm development is expected along the western edge of the air mass near a dry line over west central Kansas and southeast Nebraska. Thunderstorms that do move into the strong low-level flow in the late afternoon and early evening will have the potential to be supercells with very large hail, large to very large hail, excuse me, and tornadoes. Severe wind gusts will also be possible. A severe weather outbreak will be possible from Monday afternoon into the evening and the overnight period. Uh-oh. Tuesday, day 6 to Thursday, day 8. On Tuesday, mid-level southwesterly flow is forecast over the central United States, with a cold front moving southeastward through the central plains in the upper Midwest. Ahead of this front, surface dew points from the mid-60s to the low 70s are expected to contribute to moderate to strong instability. Thunderstorms, uh, Thunderstorm development with a severe threat will be possible along and ahead of the front during the afternoon and evening from the northern part of the southern plains northeastward into the mid-Mississippi Valley. On Wednesday and Thursday, the cold front is forecast to move slowly southeastward across the southern plains and mid-Mississippi Valley, extending east-northeastward into the mid-Atlantic. Okay, into the mid-Atlantic. Cool, that's mentioning me. A severe threat could develop along and ahead of the front each afternoon and evening. However, the uncertainty concerning the exact location of the front is substantial at this extended range. And it's made by our boy Broyles, so chef's kiss. Wonderful. Uh, Mr. Broyles, Chris Broyles, I don't even know Chris's first name. I think it's Chris Evans or something Broyles. I don't remember. I don't really need to know his first name though. His last name, when I see Broyles, just chef's kiss. I know this is going to be a great forecast. I'm not trying to hype him up or fanboy him, but he's been statistically proven to have been done well in these forecasts, and forecasting meteorologically is unequivocally very complicated. So, you know, seeing him uh, prognosticate this, beautiful, 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 beautiful. But yeah, so really, unfortunately, okay, so severe thunderstorm watch number 202 was just issued. That's for today's risk. So really, there's going to be a major threat of severe weather, especially on Sunday and Monday. And it's definitely not going to be pretty. Severe weather will be meager today, tomorrow. Saturday will definitely ramp up with a strong tornado potential in place. Sunday and Monday and Tuesday will absolutely be just terrible days with very large amounts of severe weather, especially over a very large area. Tens of millions of people are under risks for Sunday and Monday. And it's not going to be very good. It's not good. It's just not. I have no words. I really don't. This is just going to be a terrible day. Terrible days for severe weather. So yeah. Anyways, that's really going to be it for today's video. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Have a fantastic one, and goodbye. See you in the next.